Well, hey friends, if you started a nonprofit, you know that you have one thing coming up at the end of the year, and it's always looming in the back of your brain, and it's your 990. Hooray! It's super fun, and I'm sure everyone really enjoys it. No, that's probably not because you're there to be a nonprofit leader making your community better. This isn't something that's in your purview. However, it should be, because I think we're not using our 990s to our best of our abilities, and there's a whole bunch of things that you can use that you're probably not. That's why we have a super awesome expert for us. Ann Stoll's back. She's from Ide Bailey. She's also on the board in NDANO with me. She's a brilliant human being that loves talking about nerdy tax things and 990 things, and that's why we're talking with her today. Ann, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Patrick?
I am great because we get to talk about dorky fundraising things that you typically don't think about as fundraising things because they are kind of tax things. Okay. If you are just joining us and you're saying, I need to click on a 990 101 thing and you found and stumbled across us, hi, how are you? We're here to help you. If you have no idea what on earth a 990 is, can you help us to kind of describe it and talk through what this thing that we have to do as nonprofits and send into the government? What is a 990?
Great. So a 990 is in so it's essentially the tax return for a nonprofit organization that is also tax exempt. So
Mm,
if you have that tax exempt 501c, insert a number here, status, there's quite a few of those. I think we're at 30 some maybe now.
yep.
But so if you're one of those 501c's, hopefully you know what a 990 is. It's not a tax form in the sense that we're collecting and determining tax. It's more of an information return, is what it really is. And so this is your end of year reporting that you have to give to the IRS, and it's due 4.5 months after year end. And when I say have to, I mean have to, because if you forget about it, and if you forget about it for 3 consecutive years, the IRS automatically will take your 501c status away and you are no longer tax exempt.
Mhm. Yep, it is the thing that looms. It is the most important thing if you are going to do a document in your whole thing. You're like, oh, I need my these documents. Nope, 990. That's what it is.
990.
What is so? What's in the 990? What are you reporting on, not sending in? It's not a return. It's just information. What are you putting into this? What is in a info return, as you put it?
Absolutely. So we've got 12 pages, Patrick.
It's a lot
It's
of stuff.
12.
Yep.
And guess what? They put the financial information at the end. So the last 4 pages,
Hmm.
usually the things that are kind of the like, oh hey, this is as we push through, here's the more important stuff goes at the front, right?
Yep.
So they do want to know what your financials are.
Hmm.
But what they want to know most is what you're doing. What
Yeah.
makes you different from another organization? So, your first page is going to be a quick snapshot of who you are, kind of this year to last year. And really, if you need to judge a book by its cover, here's where you could look.
Hmm. Hmm.
Second page is going to be this is why we're tax exempt. And a lot of times we go in and see organizations that don't spend a lot of time here
Hmm.
or that spend a lot of time here. And the ones that spend a lot of time here probably know that there's a Schedule O that you can attach to the 990 that allows you to use unlimited space.
Hmm.
And I think the important piece on that is not only does the IRS care what you're doing and why you're tax exempt, the IRS has also said, hey, public sector, here's these 501c organizations. We're going to let them be tax exempt. But guess what? A few clicks of your computer, you're going to be able to access their tax returns. And
Hmm.
so the IRS has this tax exempt organization search tool,
Hmm.
and you can go in, you can type, if you know the name of the organization, if you know their EIN, it's a lot easier. But if
Hmm.
you know the name of the organization, you can type that in and pull up copies of their Form 990.
Hmm.
And so this is where that second page really comes into play because everyone that has access to the internet has access to your tax return to be able to see what it is that you do.
Right. Now, there's two things here that I want to pause before we go on to page,
Yeah.
3 through 942. I'm just kidding. 3 to 23. But here's the most important part about this. Number one, your tax returns or your tax, your info return here, your 990 is searchable
Yes.
on the internet, which means if you're looking to rise above or you're looking to tell a better story or you're looking to come up in search engines, this additional information for the length of information that you give to the IRS and you put on there is searchable, which means your story's getting out there. Number two, donors are getting more savvy. And a lot of the big donors are going to look to organizations who have a very clear mission and growth pattern and trying to solve some of these issues and proof of concept and impact. If they're going to go search and they're going to see what does your 990 look like? Yeah, they'll look at the financials to see if you're healthy, but what they're really looking forward to is reading your synopsis of who you are, what on earth you do, why you exist, and what growth that you've seen year to year, because they're going to determine the size of their gift based on the impact that you make. And this is the section which nonprofits do not use enough. And it's just available to you as part of the requirements of the things you have to do that allows you to tell an amazing story that convinces or tells people or shines a light on an organization that's doing amazing work. Like this is the part where not a lot of people spend, and they should, since you're
Yep.
doing this stuff anyway. Brag about yourself here. This is the best way to brag to the government about what you do, right here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
Love
and
that.
the other thing, I mean, going super nerdy on this side, when you
Yes,
talk
please
government,
do it.
you may have an organization that started in the 70s
Right.
and things have changed. We've had a
Mhm.
lot of change in the last 5 years. And just looking at where we're at now and
Mhm.
what organizations can do as that visionary that we see so many nonprofits as they go out and they look and they're like, hey, wait a second. We are seeing people struggle in
Mhm.
this area.
Yep.
That second page is where you tell the IRS, hey, we organized 20 years ago, 30 years ago, however long ago it was.
Mhm.
And now we want to add something to
Mhm.
our activities. You can add it and put in, here's what we're going to be doing. And it sets what we're going to call precedence,
Mhm.
where if the IRS doesn't agree with it and they say, that's really great. It sounds like something nice that you're doing, but it doesn't quite fit that 501 if you're a C3. It doesn't quite fit within that C purpose that you already had in place. They only have 3 years from when you tell them to go back and say, so if you never tell them, they can go back forever.
Mhm.
But if you tell them, then that sets that precedence piece for them.
Yeah, this is really if you want to future cast your organization, this is right where you do it, and this is how you
Yeah.
grow as an organization. Again, this gives your board a tremendous amount of power to sort of spend time thinking about big, hairy, audacious goals, drop them in your 990, and then that becomes proof of concept for you to actually execute those things down the road. I love
Yeah.
that. That's a great reminder.
Yes.
Perfect. I love it. All right, what's on the following pages? What else do we got in this 990 thing here?
Right. So the next couple pages cover there's an additional 16 schedules that you can
Ugh,
attach to the 990.
yep.
So if you do certain things like you maybe get some bond funding, you maybe have some donors that give money to you. Maybe you're a 501c3. Maybe you've got some lobbying activities.
You're right.
Maybe you've got some land that you own.
Mhm.
There's an additional 16 schedules that the IRS is going to want to know additional information on those.
Mhm.
That's going to go way beyond what we want to talk about right now. So we're not going to go into those additional schedules, but certainly the next couple pages are ones that you want to read through, you want to look, you want to know what's on there.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And then what we got? We got a bunch of information. We got a bunch of land and things and stuff and whatever. And now what do we got on this thing?
Now we've got additional IRS filings. So we're on about page 4 and 5. So
Mm-hmm.
very bottom of 4, but page 5 goes through the list of additional things that you may need to file with the IRS. So if you've got people that you're paying for, let's call them employees, or you've got people that you're paying as independent contractors. You might have some W-2s. Maybe you have some 1099s. Maybe you have some bank accounts that are overseas. So there's some additional filings that are out there that the IRS wants to know about. And so they're gonna ask those questions like, how many employees do you have? How
Yeah.
many independent contractors do you
Yeah.
have?
Is this where you put all the executive salaries and that kind of thing too? Because that's coming, or is that coming up?
That's coming up.
Okay, all right.
Coming
I
up.
skipped a few. I'm sorry.
So
I'm always
yeah,
intrigued by that because that's usually the question that a lot of people come up like, "Well, do I have to do this?" I go, well,
right,
yeah, it's the IRS, kind of.
right. Yeah. So
All
the
right.
next page, page 6, and this is one I always like to pause on too.
Mhm.
There isn't any right or wrong answer on page 6, but there's certainly some that can help your organization. And if you're one of those organizations that are reliant on donors,
Mhm.
this is a page that a lot of those watchdog organizations will go in and say, hey, this charity has these policies, procedures in place.
Mhm.
This charity does not. Who do you want to give to? And they'll score charities based off of those pieces. So if you ever hear about your charity having scores or
Mhm.
scoring well or scoring poorly, this is one of the areas that they look at to say, what policies, procedures do you have in place? Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer,
Mhm.
but it certainly can have donor impact. We've had charities that have come up to us and said, hey, we had a donor that we were talking with, and suddenly they decided not to give to us. And they said that we had a failing score.
Mm.
And it's one of those where you go back and you look and you say, well, here's some things you can do to improve that score. And we can help you with
Mm.
those things. There's policies, there's procedures that you can put into place to be able to change the
Mhm.
answers
Mhm.
in this page 6. Say you don't have a conflict of interest policy in place. You don't have a whistleblower. You don't have a document retention and destruction policy. These are all policies that are good policies to have.
Right.
And so it's one of those where if you don't have them, strongly recommend you put them in place. The IRS isn't going to require you, but some donors might require you and you might not even know.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
again,
something that they look oftentimes at a
yeah.
3-year
Yep.
piece. So it might take a little bit to change that story. But if you don't have the policies that are on showing up on
Mhm.
page 6, get them put into place.
Right.
They're worth it.
And if it takes you 3 years to get this thing up and running, and it takes you a little bit of time, part of your conversation and part of your storytelling to your donors and your future donors is we recognize that we did not have these over the last couple of years, so we've implemented this. Now you get to talk to them about your 990 before your 990 comes out. That's a talking point that you get to have. It's an approach you get to use with your donors. It gives them confidence, and you get to begin the conversation about how much or how high your score is going to be based on the things that you're going to do. And all of a sudden, now you got a different talking point for a donor. You got a different touch point. You could reach out to your major donors to build them confidence that you're an organization well worth funding, regardless of whatever they're looking at the three scores, because you're proactive about it. Love
Absolutely.
that.
Yes, yes. So you had some foreshadowing earlier. There's some compensation stuff coming up. Comes
Hmm.
up here, pages 7 and 8.
Hmm.
You have to list off your board of directors and you have to list off your top management, top financial official.
Hmm.
And then if you have anyone in your organization that makes over $100,000,
Hmm.
you have to list the next top 5 people
Hmm.
that
Okay.
are at that level.
Sure.
If you don't have anyone over 100,000, you can stop with your board
Hmm.
and the top management, top financial.
Hmm. Love it.
And really, this adds clarity too. It's one of those where,
Right.
yes, there is a lot of what people may say is overstep, but it is one of those where ultimately, at the end of the day, people are going to care where their money is going and they're going to want to know. And
Yep.
they're going to want to know that salary component, but you get to justify it too because you do list off the
Yes.
total hours that
Yeah.
these people are putting into those positions,
Correct.
whether as volunteers or as paid employees.
Hmm. Yep. And again, it's all part of your story. Like think about everything that you're putting on here as a part of your story. The reason we had an increase in these number of people who are working with us is because our programs expanded, blah, blah, blah. And that in page 2 and in page 1, as you're sort of starting out, is you're explaining that what they're gonna see in the latter pages. You're building the story and building the case on why you need more funding in the first place. Yes. Okay.
Yes. 100%. So,
Hmm.
and then we talked about those last 3 pages, and really the only difference you're going to see on your financials is the IRS does say that you have to show them in a certain way.
Hmm.
So it is one where your revenues, you're going to have to show what revenues are contribution related, what revenues are related to your programming, what revenues are excluded from being unrelated business income, and what revenues are from those trades or businesses that you're regularly carried on that are not related to your exempt purposes.
Yep. Love that.
Yeah.
So we've got our 990. We submitted it. It's been accepted by our fair government. And now what do we do with this? Do we just hide this and we put it in a drawer, or do we have to put this on the internet? Is there a benefit to putting it on the internet? What do we do with this now that we've got it?
So, couple things. You definitely can't hide it in a drawer and never touch it again. It is one of those where the IRS says you have to have it open for public inspection for up to 3 years.
Hmm.
So, some of those charity scores are going to score you higher if you do have a copy of it on your internet. It's also one where you can put it on other internets. If you are familiar with GuideStar, this is one where they get the tax returns. So whether you give it to them or not, they'll have a copy of your tax return out there.
Yep.
It is something that you can also provide them with a copy, and they'll then show them differently so that donors will know that you gave it to GuideStar, you have it on your website, you have all of these components, you're very clear, you're very open with what is being done with their money and those components. If you don't do this, there's penalties.
Hmm.
So you do have to have it available for inspection. And then whether you choose to list it on your website or other places, that's your choice.
Hmm.
But it is one that can have impacts from a donor
Yeah.
aspect.
Well, and again, I will harp on this until and everyone listens to me. That's really what the goal is here, which is put your 990 on your website, and then have a page talking about what's in there. Like you get to blog about this, right? So, and if you want an easy peasy, reason to do this, like take the first couple of pages of all the information, not the financials. You don't have to do that, but like you take that information, throw it into an AI model, and come up with a blog or two that talks about your 990 and why it's so beneficial to the community. Put that up on your website, use it as your marketing tool, showcase, brag, be transparent. Because again, that transparency issue with donors right now is so incredibly important when they're trying to look at where they're going to put their good money. They don't want to put it to an organization that's got bad results, bad impact, and maybe bad financials in the first place. So if you've got these full reports, if you've got, a 990 that looks good and you've got wonderful stories that you're telling about in it, brag about it, post it, talk about it, use it as a lead generation. Like we are one of the most efficient organizations in the blah, blah, blah. We've got this coming here. Like use this to your advantage. Not a
Yep.
lot of nonprofit organizations do that, and that's what I want to hammer home into your face right now. So
Yeah.
I love
And
it.
if you're worried about sensitive data
Hmm.
that gets included in here, because the IRS wants to know who your donors are,
Hmm.
do know that the donor information is not public, so that you definitely do not
Hmm.
have to list. So if you have donors on your Schedule B that gets attached to the 990, you can either pull that full piece out, or redact the names and addresses.
Yep. Good to know. Great to know. Again, great talking point to spend to your donors in the first place. You're not going to be showing up on our website if you don't want to. We
Right.
block out that thing. We don't have to show that. But again, it's a storytelling opportunity. If you were concerned or you didn't know where to start, and where would you go if you had a question about a 990? You're just starting out, you're confused. Maybe you didn't do it last year and now you're scared to death that the government's coming after you, which should be because you need to go get that done. What do you do? Who do you call? What on earth is your next step?
I'd call I would there's a couple areas. It depends on what you're comfortable with. So if you're comfortable with calling, call your accountant, call your CPA, reach out, look through the phone book, find a few that you can reach out to. If it's something where you're more comfortable with reading and you don't want to pick up that phone, I would say two things. So one is the IRS has a really fun stay exempt course that you can go through
Ooh.
and take. And they've really gone in and done a pretty good job with it. It is one where it's in plain language. They're not going to spew a whole bunch of code sections at you. They got to spew some because 501c3 is still going to show up.
Hmm.
But beyond 501c3 showing up, you're not going to get a lot of code sections. You're not going to get a lot of IRS speak out of it. It is one where it is more donor, CEO, CFO talk, where
Right.
they're going to go through and say, okay, hey, here's what you really need to know. And then if you want to read stuff, the instructions. And
Yep.
as much and as painful as instructions are, and they'll put you to sleep if you need good bedtime reading material, these ones aren't as bad as others. They're not going to put you to sleep quite as quickly as others will. So, especially if it is something where you have just a new activity that came on, say you've never accepted non-cash donations before,
Hmm.
go into the instructions. They've got a definition for what a non-cash donation is. They've got how you should report it. They've got if there's an additional schedule that you need to complete for this, how to read those pieces. So not you're not going to be sleeping the first 10 minutes.
No.
They're
12
pretty
minutes.
easy to
Yeah.
read.
12 minutes maybe, not first 10. So just take it 10 minutes at a time. You're going to be good.
Yep, 10 minutes at a time.
Yep. And you're the best. I appreciate it. Again, if you're a nonprofit and you just had some questions, this is a great 101 to kind of send your board, have anybody look at it that's just kind of getting involved in your finance, your CPA group or your finance committee. Get them a good overview of this on the why. But again, use this to your advantage. I know that nonprofits need to do that a little bit more. It's right there. You have to do it in the first place and tell a big story. Brag about it. And if you have any questions, you always call our friend Ann, and she'll probably help
Yep.
you out as well. Any comments, leave them in below. We'll answer them as they come along. Thanks again, Ann, for your brilliance. Per usual, this makes a whole heck of a lot more sense because you helped out.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad to help. Thanks,
Excellent.
Patrick.
Thanks, Fred.